Have you ever loved someone so much that you'd believe anything they said, just to keep the peace, just to hold on to the illusion of happiness? This is a story about Mark, a man who did just that. He thought his love for his wife, Sarah, was a fortress, strong enough to withstand anything. But he soon learned that even the strongest walls can be brought down, not by a single powerful blow, but by 1,000 tiny cracks, 1,000 little lies. Mark and Sarah's love story began like a fairy tale. They met in college, a classic case of opposites attract. Mark was quiet, steady, and thoughtful, a man who found joy in simple things: a well-brewed cup of coffee, a good book, the comfortable silence he shared with Sarah. Sarah, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of energy. She was vibrant, social, and loved being the center of attention. Her laughter could fill a room, and her spontaneity was what drew Mark in. He saw her as the bright, beautiful sun he was happy to orbit. For years, their life together was a beautiful melody. Mark worked as an architect, designing homes for other families, while dreaming of the one he was building with Sarah. Sarah had a successful career in marketing, a job that perfectly suited her outgoing personality. They had a cozy home, a circle of friends, and a future that seemed as bright and promising as a sunrise. Mark cherished every moment. He loved the way she'd steal his fries when she claimed she wasn't hungry, the way she'd hum off key while cooking, the way she'd fall asleep on his shoulder during movies. To him, she was perfect. He trusted her completely, with every fiber of his being. Trust for Mark wasn't just a word. It was the foundation of their entire world. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, things started to change. The first lie was small, almost insignificant. Sarah had come home late from work one evening, smelling faintly of wine and a perfume that wasn't hers. "The team went out for a quick drink to celebrate a new contract," she'd said, giving him a quick kiss. "It was so boring, you wouldn't have enjoyed it." Mark believed her. Why wouldn't he? He was just happy she was home. But a few days later he bumped into one of her colleagues at the grocery store who mentioned the project hadn't been won yet. They were still waiting for the final word. A tiny cold knot formed in Mark's stomach, but he pushed it away. It must have been a misunderstanding. Sarah was just being optimistic. Soon the small inconsistencies became more frequent. There were more late nights at the office, more girls' nights out that he wasn't invited to. Her phone, which used to lie casually on the coffee table, was now always face down or clutched tightly in her hand. When he asked who she was texting so furiously, she'd wave a dismissive hand. "Oh, just work stuff. You know how demanding it is." Mark would nod, accepting the explanation because the alternative was too painful to consider. He chose to believe in the woman he married, not the stranger she seemed to be becoming. He told himself he was being paranoid, that he needed to be more supportive of her demanding career. One Saturday, Sarah said she was going on a weekend yoga retreat with her friend Chloe. "I really need to de-stress and clear my head," she explained, packing a small bag. Mark encouraged her, even making her a thermos of her favorite tea for the drive. He spent the weekend working on a personal design project, feeling a little lonely but happy that Sarah was taking care of herself. That Sunday evening he called Chloe's husband to ask about a restaurant recommendation Chloe had once mentioned. In passing, he said, "I hope Sarah and Chloe are having a relaxing time at the retreat." There was a confused pause on the other end of the line. "Retreat? Mate, Chloe's been with me all weekend. We've been binge-watching that new crime series." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The phone felt cold and heavy in Mark's hand. He hung up, his heart pounding a frantic, panicked rhythm against his ribs. It couldn't be true. There had to be another explanation. Maybe Sarah went with another friend. Maybe she lied to Chloe, too. His mind raced, desperately searching for a plausible reason, a thread of logic he could cling to. He didn't want to confront her. He was terrified of what he might find out. So when Sarah returned, glowing and talking about how amazing the downward dog felt, Mark just smiled. He listened to her detailed descriptions of the yoga instructors and the vegan food, and with each word, a piece of his heart chipped away. He loved her so much that he chose her lie over his own sanity. This became the new, painful pattern of their lives. Mark became a detective in his own home, noticing things he'd once been blind to. Credit card statements with charges for fancy dinners for two at restaurants he'd never been to. A man's jacket, not his style, briefly seen in the back of her car and then gone the next day. Whispered phone calls that ended abruptly when he entered the room. Each discovery was a small wound, and Mark tried to patch them up with denial. He told himself he was imagining things, that there were reasonable explanations for everything. He wanted to believe her. Oh, how desperately he wanted to believe her. He was clinging to the memory of the woman he married, hoping that if he just loved her enough, she would come back to him. His friends started to notice the change in him. He became withdrawn, the light in his eyes dimming. "Is everything okay with you and Sarah?" his best friend David asked one day over a beer. Mark just shrugged, unable to voice the fears that were eating him alive. How could he explain that his wife was living a double life and he was willingly playing the fool? Admitting it out loud would make it real, and he wasn't ready for that reality. He was trapped in a prison of his own making, built with the bricks of Sarah's lies and cemented by his own desperate love. He was listening to every lie, hoping, praying, that the next words out of her mouth would finally be the truth. The breaking point, the final lie that shattered his heart into 1,000,000 irreparable pieces, came on their 10th wedding anniversary. Mark had planned a surprise. He'd taken the day off work and booked a table at the small Italian restaurant where he had first proposed to her. He bought a beautiful sapphire necklace, the same deep blue as her eyes. He spent the afternoon filled with a nervous hope, believing this gesture could remind them of what they once had, that it could somehow fix the cracks in their foundation. He waited at the restaurant, the necklace box heavy in his pocket. 7 o'clock came and went, then 8. He called her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. He sent texts that went unanswered. The waiter gave him sympathetic looks. By 9:30 the restaurant was emptying, and a cold dread had settled deep in Mark's bones. He paid for the untouched bottle of wine and drove home, his mind a storm of worst-case scenarios. He found her note on the kitchen counter, propped against the salt shaker. It wasn't a confession or an apology. It was the most brutal lie of all. It read, "Mark, I'm so sorry. My mother had a fall. I had to rush to the hospital. I'll call you when I can. I love you." For a moment he felt a wave of relief mixed with concern for his mother-in-law. He immediately dialed her number. A sleepy but perfectly fine voice answered on the second ring. "Mark, is everything all right? It's a bit late." And that was it. The final lie. It wasn't elaborate or clever. It was simple, careless, and utterly devastating. It was the lie she told because she didn't care enough to even make it a good one. It showed him with chilling clarity how little he meant to her. The years of late nights, the yoga retreats, the work dinners, it all came crashing down on him. She wasn't just lying about her whereabouts, she was lying about everything. She was lying about their life, their past, their future. And the "I love you" at the end of the note was the cruelest cut of all. In that single, silent moment in his empty kitchen, Mark's heart didn't just break, it disintegrated. The man who had listened to every lie, who had chosen delusion over truth to preserve his love, was gone forever. The fortress he had built around his heart had been a house of cards all along, and a careless whisper had brought it all down. He finally understood. You can't love someone into being honest. You can't love someone into loving you back. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to finally stop listening to the lies and start listening to the painful, liberating truth. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Remember to take care of your own heart. We'll see you in the next video.